New polling from a critical battleground state could be the biggest signal yet of former President Trump's momentum since the debate. An AARP poll of likely voters in Wisconsin shows him with a 5-point lead over President Biden. The poll was conducted after President Biden's debate performance. The survey also found Trump leading Biden by 7 points among voters 50 and older. It is the first time in at least 24 years that the GOP nominee has led after the July 4th holiday going into the conventions. Popular polling doesn't mean electoral votes, though. Let's look at history here. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was up in the polls, won the popular vote, ultimately, though, lost the election. In 2004, John Kerry couldn't hold on to his midsummer lead in the polls, ultimately losing the election and popular vote to George W. Bush. Since the June 27th debate, all major shifts in polling have gone in the Republicans' favor. Joining us now, Scott Tranter, Director of Data Science for us at DDHQ. Scott, welcome. Thanks, as always, for being here. Biden won Wisconsin in 2020. If he loses that state in November, the question is, does he still have a path to win?
Look, mathematically, yes, but the way those upper Midwest states go, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, they usually vote in a block, and those are the critical ones that Joe Biden needs to win. So, while it's mathematically possible, it's not likely.
What else stands out to you about some of the new polls that we're getting?
Well, I like that you brought up that Wisconsin one. Look, the other little nitbit I like about that Wisconsin one is it was conducted by both a Republican and a Democratic pollster for AARP. So there's no bias there. Both pollsters had to agree on the survey structure as well as the methodology, and it still showed Donald Trump up, and that's a post-debate poll, and so that's a good indicator of what we think some of those other states up in the upper Midwest are doing. It doesn't look good post-debate for Joe Biden. Now there's still quite a bit of campaign left, but that's a good leading indicator of what we might see as we get other polls out there.
Right, and a big one is maybe this: DDHQ giving Trump a 58% chance of winning the presidency. How'd you arrive at that figure?
So we look at all the polls, all the fundraising, all the historical, all the probabilities across all these different battleground states, and that's how we came up to 58%. Now, that's still roughly a coin flip, but advantage to Donald Trump, and that is unchanged. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say unchanged. That is pretty stable for Donald Trump since the beginning, is him being ahead. Joe Biden needs to pick it up in some of these battleground states to see his odds improve.
Right, so let's talk about some of those other battleground states, swing states. What trends are you all seeing?
Well, one of the big ones is Pennsylvania. You brought up Wisconsin, but Pennsylvania is another key battleground state. As you see there from a polling average, Donald Trump's ahead by about 4 points there. From a probability standpoint, Donald Trump's got about a 60% chance of winning Pennsylvania. Michigan is much, much closer, but it's a state that Joe Biden won pretty easily in 2020, and the fact that it's close now is not very good.
Break down the top issue for American voters right now. Is it eyes on the president and his ability to continue to lead? Is it the economy? What are some of the polls bleeding out?
I think you hit up on the top two right there. Economy's been number one for a couple of years. People at the end of the day care about what it costs them to go to the grocery store and buy gas. But when you combine that with the fact that they're worried that Joe Biden isn't up to the job now and isn't up to the job potentially for a second term, that tells me that those are the two things weighing on them, because they're not sure that Joe Biden's going to be the one to carry, help the economy get better and reduce inflation for them this term and next term.
Historically, I know it's difficult to predict, but we went through some of the other polling averages in comparison to races in the past. Does that give you any indication in terms of the momentum we're seeing from Trump right now?
Yeah, no, look, that was a great graphic, a lot of good research there, and it kind of gives you an idea of what the next 3 to 4 months look like. The one thing that really stood out for me, or what some of us political nerds are looking at, is the amount of movement we see between now and Labor Day afterwards. And so that's a long way of me saying is, look, after Labor Day is when voters really start tuning in, and we could see some real shifts. But right now the momentum's with Donald Trump, and if he's able to carry that momentum to when voters start really paying attention post Labor Day, this could end up being a blowout.
Conventions are pretty predictable. We're still waiting for Donald Trump to pick his VP. We'll see what the Democratic Party does in terms of Biden. How much do conventions matter to the American public? Does that show up in the polls?
You know what? Historically, there used to be a convention bump, but we did not see a really big one in 2020, and that might have been because of COVID. And there wasn't a very large one in 2016. I don't think most Americans know the RNC convention is going to be 4 days next week. Look, I didn't even realize that it was that long still. And the only thing they're going to care about is the 14 minutes, 15 minutes. They're going to hear about the VP pick that Donald Trump's going to announce.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.